I don't remember the first time I heard of John Green or the Vlogbrothers, the YouTube channel John shares with his brother Hank. Which came first? I'm not entirely sure. I do know I have read almost all of John Green's books, and I have never felt as seen as I did when I read this particular one. I've always been a fan of John Green's work, but nowadays, my love for his books are always tinged by a bit of nostalgia. Maybe it's because I'm no longer at school, so reading about teenagers just makes me think of school the way you think of old black and white photographs. Or maybe because these days, I find essays easier to digest. But there is something about reading about our capacity for wonder and seeing how his then 2-year-old son saw that in a single brown oak leaf, or about the largest ball of paint and what it feels like to make art. Some of these stories I've heard before, simply from watching Vlogbrothers videos over the years, like the one about watching an old movie Harvey after John had broken up with a girlfriend. But all of them feel new and familiar at the same time. It's funny because I'm not a parent, and I don't live in a place where I have a garden I get to plant tomatoes, and I don't even play Super Mario Kart all that often. Yet some part of me relates deeply to this collection of essays that has made up the Anthropocene Reviewed. Perhaps it's the part of me that is eager to connect to the rest of humanity that helps me do that. Maybe it's the same part of my brain as the one that reads poetry or listens to spoken word and immediately feel a sense of connection to the stories being told. The stories Green tells in the Anthropocene Review aren't just his stories. He talks about the history behind Diet Dr. Pepper, Monopoly, and scratch and sniff stickers. But they are very much framed by his experiences, and it has been a marvel to read about them. I'm not sure if there's a way to describe what the book is really about in the way you read the synopsis of a novel and immediately understand the story that is being told. I don't think the point of the book is about what it is about. Instead, I think it is about the ways in which your life relates to the Anthropocene. Green may be writing about his experiences and rating them as if we are reading Google reviews, but how do we, not just as readers but as ourselves, relate to the world around us? How are our own capacities of wonder? How do we make sense of perhaps the current state of affairs, of plagues, or of the role art plays in our lives? In reading the Anthropocene Reviewed, I have been thinking about how I look at the world. Maybe I'm a little less prone to want to review anything on a 5-star scale because I feel like I'm not an expert, so my opinion doesn't really matter. Or maybe it's because I want to be able to see things, especially things we usually review on a 5-star scale, like media, or food, or music, beyond just what someone rates it. I rely a lot on the 5-star scale to make decisions in my own life, especially when it comes to the media I consume or the restaurants I go to. I don't want to waste time, and reviews are the best way to not waste any time. It is also a great way to figure out what is important to you by rating it. That being said, the thing about Green's reviews is that the stories being told in them matter more than the stars he chooses to give in each review. That's wholly different from normal reviews, where I just skip to the end to get to the gist of what a reviewer thinks so I can make quick decisions. His stories are what make me contemplate about my own stories, and how I like to apply what I might have gleaned from his stories in my life. The entire book has brought back my own capacity for wonder, and made me think of what stories within stories I like to tell when I'm writing a poem, or a story, or an essay. It's easy to pick up, especially if you're like me and if you're getting back into reading and are suddenly intimidated by long novels. The Anthropocene Reviewed is a book with a lot of heart. I promise it is worth every minute of your time.
I'm begging you to be kind. I'm begging you to be kind.